because I have just consumed right after I consumed. Should help things kick right in.
Good.
I don't know if you're aware of the way that works, but you're supposed to take that and then eat right afterwards. Unlike smoking, which eating will take away from, eating after eating makes it much better.
Interesting. That makes sense because
Hmm.
when we do that, that's usually our routine is we'll do it right before we eat dinner. So
And that's what helps kick it in.
good to know. Good to know. Speaking of, I mean, we got somebody that we're going to be talking about that all episode. I didn't quite realize how much of a pothead he was. I don't know how I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean the Coral Reefer Band.
You know, when you think that, it makes sense, but like
It does, but
when
I
when
also didn't
you
associate him with it.
yeah, when you actually think about it, it's great.
Yeah.
Well, meanwhile, there's like a picture on one of the things I was looking at of him with like sweatbands on his arms, I guess to actually be sweatbands, but they were like Jamaican. I
Okay,
was like, oh, okay, all right, I get it. All right,
we get it.
it's
Jamaica
legit.
is just code.
I mean, yes, I guess so is the Coral Reefer Band.
Yeah, that's
It's
a little
all
more
it's all
overt.
code. All right. Well, your artist is first, just so
That's
you're aware.
correct. I am ready.
Okay. I guess I'm ready too.
Excellent.
And let me just grab this. All right, I am ready.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
This is a podcast. Yes, it's a podcast. And we call it Totem Talks.
Yeah, okay, that's pretty good. I'll take. Wasn't even the part that I was expecting. I was thinking you'd go more for the chorus, but I like it.
It was in my brain during the intro. It was very difficult to make the chorus fit
I understand.
podcast and Totem Talks because of how many syllables are in the chorus.
Yeah.
The title word.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know about you, but
Oh
I'm
my
feeling
God.
22.
Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Totem Talks, Season 7, Episode 22. And
Yep.
the tradition lives on.
Yeah. Do you do a 23andMe bit for the season 20?
I could.
Yeah, I guess you'll have to start doing that.
Why not?
Yeah.
I'll just start talking about random, like, genealogical facts about
That's what we'll have to do.
either of us.
We're no longer trying to just randomly connect these artists to other artists. We're trying to do it through their actual genealogy.
You know, I'm sure for some of them it would work.
You know, it would work for the season finale, but it ain't working for episode 23.
That we know of.
That's true. I haven't.
We know of.
Okay, I'm looking at episode 23, and I'd be very surprised, but it's not impossible.
Nothing is impossible in this
You're
world.
right.
That's all I can tell you. Anyway, before we get too far into it, welcome into Totem Talks. We are a music-based podcast, and we are continuing our never-ending, permanent journey to discover the greatest musical artist of all time. This is Nick. I'm Pat. We're Totem Talks. And Nick,
Yes.
did we find the greatest musical artist of all time today?
No.
All right. Well, this was a great episode. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back next week. No.
Maybe next week we'll find them.
Maybe next week. But yeah, this was an interesting one. I'll tell you what. Before we get too far into it, it was an interesting listen.
Yeah.
I learned some things.
We all learned.
I got a definitive thing, which the younger people call the ick.
Yes.
I was
There was a little bit
definitively
of that.
given the ick by one of these artists.
Yes.
It is incurable. So I
That's
learned
a
that the
fish that
hard way.
goldfish, or that's a disease goldfish get. Ick.
The
That's what
ick,
you
yeah,
received. Yeah.
exactly.
Well,
But anyway, enough of that. If you're here, you know what's going on. Thanks for commenting, liking, listening, subscribing, all that fun stuff. One more little tidbit. If you are listening to this, it's official.
that's right.
Nick, our second album is out.
That's right. It
It is
came out
out today,
literally
the
today.
day we recorded, which is May 24th.
That's correct.
And when this gets, posted in mid-November, you'll be aware that on May
I mean,
24th our second album came out.
very early prediction for when you think this episode is going to show up on podcast. Yeah.
I like to be
Very positive.
very aggressive
Okay.
in when I assume things will happen.
I like it.
But anyway, second album, Life on the Outside, Low Totem. Check it out wherever you stream your music. Or if you know where Nick lives, come buy a CD.
That's true. I have them.
Yeah, those are the two options. You could come to a show as well if you want
That's
to do
true.
that, but you'd have to be really local to the outer Philadelphia area. We'll call
True.
it.
Or, I mean, if you don't mind driving a really long time,
That's
we'll
true.
be there.
Yeah, we definitely won't mail one though. None of
No.
that.
No.
You have to drive to where we are.
Absolutely. I won't even allow you to take a plane if you're coming from
No.
overseas. You have to drive.
You have to drive. Now, could they drive a ship of some sort, or is it only a car?
Here's what I'll say. If you take a boat that's big enough to keep your car in it, you can sit in the driver's seat while the car is being transported.
Do you have to be moving on the
Well, the
boat
car
in
will be moving, and the car will be moving in the same way that we're all moving through space right now. So I think that's fine. That's
Okay.
allowed.
You know what? It's a very generous view.
Yeah, I tend to be generous.
Speaking of generosity, Nick,
Mm-hmm.
who are we covering today?
Well, we are covering your personal physician, Dr. Hook, and the Medicine Show to start things off.
That is true. My actual physician, Dr. Hook, in the Medicine Show.
Who later became just Dr. Hook.
Yeah.
And then we are also covering, of course, James Buffet.
That is also a great way to say that, and a totally
Buffett.
normal pronunciation.
Jimmy Buffett is the person.
Jimmy
Yes.
Buffett, indeed.
All right.
Speaking of Dr. Hook, though, it's good to see like a former naval general, captain, if you will, get promoted
Absolutely.
and go back to school and get his doctorate.
Well, you got to use that money.
it's
You're getting the
important.
money for college, so.
All right, I'm going to get us started here with Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show. So Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show, eventually shortened to just Dr. Hook in 1975, is an American rock band formed in Union City, New Jersey. The band was active from 1968 to 85, then again from 1988 to 2015, and then again from 2019 until the present day. So they just like to take a couple of years off every once in a while.
Yeah.
We covered 3 albums by Dr. Hook. We started with the eponymous debut, Dr. Hook, although it's really iffy because this came out in 1972 and they were called Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show.
Right.
I'm counting it, though.
Yeah, it's close enough. It's close enough.
They eventually changed their name to this album title, and therefore it counts. We followed that up with Sloppy Seconds, which also came out in 1972. So a double dose of the 72s.
That's right.
And then we wrapped things up with Let Me Drink From Your Well, which came out in 1983.
Right.
And I will tell you, Nick, before we get any further, I was relieved a little bit that album came out in 1983 and not like 2023.
Oh, well, yeah.
Not relieved
It
enough.
wouldn't have.
Not relieved enough. We'll get into more.
Yeah.
But a little relieved. I'll say that.
Yes.
Now, why don't you talk us through Dr. Hook?
I would love to. So there's a couple interesting things about this record. But first of all, let me just say, you definitely get the vibe listening to it that they don't take themselves too seriously. This is just like a bunch of guys who are buds and who get together and strum some chords and sing some songs and have fun doing it. And
Yeah.
I do think that like comes across nicely. I mean, it means that what they do is sloppy. It means that what they do is a little bit silly, but I don't think that they mean to do anything more than that. So I think that's totally fine. Their identity is pretty clear on this record. And um, what is super interesting for anyone who was a child from the 80s to now
Yeah.
is the fact that these songs are all written by Shel Silverstein, the lyrics, at least the poet.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll tell you this, as someone who read those books about a trillion times each as a kid, I hear Shell's voice in a lot of the lyrics on this. Like I can very much hear the Shel
100%.
Silversteinness of it. And for that, there is some nice nostalgia. Like, oh, like I know somebody who writes just like this, who was a treasured part of my childhood. Um, and what was the other big surprise for me, aside from Shel Silverstein being the one who wrote their music, is also they have one really huge song that has kept on being famous through the decades that we will talk about on the next album. But like they also had an astounding number of like hit singles and chart success throughout the 70s that I had no idea existed, including the song Sylvia's Mother, which actually charted higher than Cover the Rolling Stone. Um, as a
Spoiler
single,
alert,
I know.
man. Come
I know.
on.
Whoops. And also was a million seller. It was their first million selling single. It was like pretty popular. And it's a really sappy song, but it's supposed to be like it's more of a satire on that type of sappy song than it
Yeah.
is that itself. So, oh no, it's a good debut. It was interesting.
Okay. You got a lot of the positives out of the way. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Shel Silverstein was a revelation on this album, and I will say is dearly missed in other
Yeah.
albums that we're going to get to because they weren't allowed to talk about other stuff, I guess, when Shel Silverstein was writing. Now, into the you said uniqueness, interesting qualities. Is what you mean that sometimes there's like almost like a lyrical singing happening and like really nice singing. And then sometimes there's just a dude that
Yeah.
sings like this and he's like, hey, my name is this. And oh, that hurt me.
Yeah. It does hurt.
That actually physically hurt me to do.
I was gonna say
Um,
anyone who knows the song that the big one that we mentioned will recognize that there are several different voices that come into
yeah.
play here.
Yeah. But it's very strangely done on this album because it's
Sure.
like there's no correlation between the two. And it's like, there's no way you actually sound like that. Like
Yeah. It's a
you
strange way to
you're
sound.
yeah, it's like with us. We both sing on both of our albums. And it would be like if when I sang, I just like sang normally and you were just like, hello, my name is Nicholas and this is ridiculous. Like that, and you
Yeah.
just put on a weird affectation on your
Sure.
voice for no reason. But it definitely is like a bunch of dudes just goofing around.
Yeah.
This album was decent. It was sloppy. It was clearly just like,
Mhm.
thrown together a little bit, but it was decent. So I'll take us into sloppy seconds. Another album from the same year. So, not a ton of chance for growth here.
Right.
And here's the thing. We're still in the Shel Silverstein world.
We are.
Shel Silverstein still writes all their lyrics, which hurts a little more on this one because the first song is called Freakin' at the Freaker's Ball.
Which so sounds like it could have been
Oh,
a Shel Silverstein poem in like A Light in the Attic or
100%.
Where the Sidewalk Ends.
Yes, until you listen to the lyrics and then you go, this was maybe not,
Mhm.
this is maybe shouldn't have been on Where the Sidewalk Ends for a
Very,
good
very
reason.
fair.
That is a song that I guess, there are certain things where you realize like we as a culture still have a long way to go. And then there are some things that you're like, we've come a long way.
Yeah.
And that is definitely one of them.
Hmm.
There is just some things that get said in that song that like had me clutching my pearls, we'll say.
Sure.
The rest of the stuff, I mean, it's kind of like realistically one 70 something minute long album in
I
terms of
agree.
how similar it all
Yep.
sounds. There's still the weird difference between like, hey, it's me and I'm singing a song, and then there's me, the other guy. Ha ha ha. Like,
Hmm.
it's still strange. The album ends with the cover of Rolling Stone, which is by
Well,
far their most enduring hit.
sure. I mean, did you not listen to the version that ended with something slightly different?
Oh God.
Because I did.
I did. I did. I just yes, we both listened to the CD bonus track
Hmm.
at
How
the
could you
end,
not? It's only a minute and a half. You
which
got to see what it's all about.
breaks your heart because it's also written by Shel Silverstein. Like what
Uh,
like
yeah,
this album in particular. First off, that song is called Looking for Pussy. I'm just going to throw it out there.
that is what it is called.
And guess what the subject matter is?
A missing cat.
No, sadly it's not.
Well,
You
I've
wish it was.
given everything that I could give in that guess.
It was very weird. Uh I whatever. The bookends of this album had me, like I said earlier, clutching my pearls.
Yeah,
The rest of the album was fine. This is not a band that I like a lot.
sure,
They're just a bunch of dudes having fun. It's a style of music that's just
exactly.
whatever. It's sloppy, which I guess they warned you with the album title.
Right.
The singing is decent at times, and then also like a demented demon at other times. And Shel Silverstein has changed for me because of all of this.
I understand.
And those are my opinions.
Okay. So yeah, I agree. It's mostly just the same album. I will say I think they have honed a little bit better what they do for this record. Like I think if you like went song for song, first album, second album, while mostly sounding the same, second album's a little bit stronger.
Sure.
Um, especially with, I think "Cover of the Rolling Stone" is genuinely a great song.
It is
Um,
by far the best song we
it
listened to
is
from them.
it is not only like musically fun and interesting, and like the satire comes through, I feel like really well, both lyrically and in terms of the music.
Yeah.
Like they definitely like do that word painting thing where they're like they create satire with sound, which is pretty cool to do on that song. But there were some things on there that were questionable, as you noted with
Yeah.
the first and the
Just a
last song,
couple.
particularly. Um, which I also had some.
There's also a song called Get My Rocks Off.
That's
Like
true.
there's
Yeah,
there's some weird ones.
there were some weird ones. There were a lot of weird ones, but they
Yeah.
weren't. I still get the feeling like while I wouldn't re-listen to these records, like if you showed up at a party or something and these seven guys were all just like sitting around with guitars and stuff, jamming and singing, you'd want to sit down and sing along because they seem like they're having fun.
Yeah.
That's
I might bow out if they start playing Looking for
well,
Pussy,
I
but
I agree with you there, but I'm talking the vibe of the album
the vibe of the
feels
album,
that way.
I'm with you on some of that.
Okay. So now I have to get to Let Me Drink from Your Well, and I need to start with something that has nothing to do with the music.
Good. Good.
Was this available for you to stream?
Yeah, right, dude.
Okay. So did you watch the same video of this album on
Of the
YouTube as
guy,
me of
yeah,
the
just
redneck guy just
yeah.
driving around in his golf cart for 40
Yeah.
minutes?
Of course I did.
Okay, thank goodness. So if anyone ever wants to listen to this album for some reason, just know that the only way to do it is by watching some guy just driving around in his golf cart for 40 minutes.
And I'll tell you what, this may be a spoiler alert.
Okay.
We have in the past really adamantly praised the YouTube community for putting whole albums and stuff
Mhm.
like that, especially when they're not available anywhere else. Uh, it's a great way to preserve music when like you can't find it anywhere else. It's not streaming. Some of these aren't in print anymore. Like I doubt this is still in print
Yeah,
anywhere where you
no.
can buy a copy of it. So like normally I'd say kudos. This one probably could have missed it, bro. I might have
Yeah,
preferred to just watch you mow your lawn or drive your golf cart.
sure. Okay. So I get into listening to the album,
Uh-huh.
and it's like an 80s version of Doctor Hook musically. In terms of like you still kind of get that same idea. And so I'm listening to the first couple of songs, and I'm not impressed. Um, but I'm listening, and I'm not gonna kill this band for this album or anything. And the fourth track happens. And the fourth track is called When You're 18.
Yeah.
And it is basically just like, hey, don't worry. Once you're 18, those mean old parents of yours won't have anything to say about whether or not you and I can be together. And when you're finally 18, none of those problems that you're having, they won't we can take care of all those. You just come to me. And I mean, oh my god, I could not even hear like there might have been a rest of the album, but my sole purpose in life became finding out whether or not Shel Silverstein wrote those lyrics because I needed to know whether I should burn all of his books or not.
it was
And the
it
conclusion
was
that I
very
came to was
important.
that he did not.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
did the
thank
same
goodness for
thing.
that.
I did the same thing.
It's like I
I
can't
was
even
like, I
hear
need
what's happening. I just need to find out.
uh here's what I'm gonna do.
Uh,
I wanna
okay.
I'll let you finish your review, but I wanna just read a small excerpt
Mhm.
of the song. Let our audience know kind of what we're saying here. This is the how the song opens lyrically. You look like a woman and you move like one, but your parents are still telling you that you're too young. That's the first sentence. That's just how immediately how it opens. It is the band Dr. Hook at this point telling a 16 to 17-year-old girl that she looks and moves like a woman.
I feel
Uh
like this just doesn't go like it doesn't get better from there. Like that's a hard opening to bounce back from.
no, it does not get better. I will tell you that. It does not get better. And that is why I said before we started, I was very happy to see that this album came out in 1983 when it's only very, very creepy and disgusting instead
Yeah.
of them being like 75-year-old men saying that.
Yeah.
It's
I
still weird that
yeah.
they're in their like
Like I
30s
don't
saying it.
think they could have put that out on an out. Like somebody along the way would be like, guys, you gotta cut this one.
Yeah,
You
I
can
would I
maybe
would
put that
certainly
out on
hope.
a box set of everything you've ever recorded that comes out after you've died.
I
But
would
like
hope that
any sooner than that is too soon.
I'm still like I feel like in 1983 someone should have said that.
I agree.
I would have very much liked for that to have been said then.
At any stage along the process, it could have been
Because
said by
here's the thing
anyone.
Ray Sawyer,
Mhm.
who is the lead vocalist of this band, who is deceased, so rest in peace, I guess, was born in 1937. So in 1983, he was well into his 40s,
46, 40, 45, 46, somewhere near there.
45 to 46 years old. Guess what you shouldn't be actively singing about? 16 to 17-year-old girls.
Mhm.
I feel like there's a very definitive time when you can sing about them.
Ages 16 to 17.
Yeah, I would even give you 18.
18, sure, yeah, that's fine. I'm not worried.
When you're 19, maybe stop singing about it.
Sure,
And if you
that's
have a
fair.
number that doesn't start with a 1, you're off limits to
Bow
sing
out.
about any of
Bow
that.
out. Time's over.
And if you if you have a number that starts with a 4, please, unless it's 4 years old, in which case you're just a very
That's true.
precocious songwriter, I guess.
Yeah, and well ahead of your time.
Well, yeah, well ahead of your
Well,
time.
all right. I mean, I have nothing else to say about like this record was a blur to me after that happened. It took me so far out of the moment that I couldn't think about anything else but that. But the record, I mean, the sound of the music was like, hey, it's this serious, unserious, sloppy silliness, but also 80s-ified, was what I remember of that blur
Yeah,
in my
it
life.
was the worst of the three,
Oh, for sure.
for a multitude of reasons. Lyrically was all around weaker. Shel Silverstein is a poet,
Hmm.
and so was writing strong lyrics. And when he was no longer writing their lyrics, they weren't good. And even the ones that weren't about like grooming, because that's what that song is about.
Yeah, it is. And here's what I'll say for the sake of fairness.
Yeah.
Perhaps based on some of their previous songs and the spirit of those poems, that song was intended to be a satire. Maybe.
Okay.
I mean, like
I would.
that's the nicest possible thing I can think of to say for fairness sake. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, there were
Listen,
so many songs written like that or in that decade of time that were not that I mean, but it could have been a play on those things. I don't
there
know.
is there is a chance. I will give you that there is a chance that was satirical.
Yeah.
I'll even give you that I hope it was satirical.
I mean,
Uh
I don't know whether I'm saying it because I believe it or I'm saying it because I'd really like it to be the case.
yeah. Yeah, I mean this whole album was just not as good.
No.
Like musically it was worse because you're taking sloppy music and adding 80s fluff. Lyrically it was worse because Shel Silverstein wasn't there to rein them in.
Yeah.
And if you would have told me that I was desperately hoping that one of my childhood authors was not responsible for writing an album
Uh-huh.
about grooming earlier this week, I would have been very confused. And yet, that was my reality this week. So,
That
thank
was
you for that, Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show.
okay. So I'll give their spiel here.
Yeah, please.
I'm just gonna get the meanest thing slash one of the lowlights out of the way right now.
Oh,
It's the
no.
song "When You're 18."
Yeah.
The fact that they
That's,
wrote
yeah.
and released and recorded and released that into the world. Um,
Yeah.
I see that as a problem. Now, that I've gotten that out of the way, other lowlights include the deaths of several former band members. So Ray Sawyer
Yeah.
in 2018, Billy Francis in 2010, um, Bob Hankey in 2023, Jance Garfit, very interesting name, Jance Garfit in
It's an interesting
2006.
one.
Yeah. John Welters or Walters, I can't tell.
I would
My
say
handwriting,
Walters.
probably. In 97.
Maybe
So
even
so
Volters.
could be Walters. Um, but several of the band members have passed since
Yeah.
this time. And the other thing that I thought was kind of an interesting low light was the band. So remember, I told you they ended up being way more successful than I thought they were. Like
Yeah.
going back through time, I was like, oh my god, they've got actually a bunch of worldwide certifications and tons of US top 40 hits. Like they have a 5, a 6, an 11, a 6, a 6, a 5, a 12. I'm like, like a lot of top 40 hits. And I'm like, what? I have not heard any of these songs. Um, and they went bankrupt in 1974. They went
Oh,
bankrupt. They had to declare bankruptcy. And here's the thing. To
how
quote,
did they do it?
I forget which one of the band members I was reading about saying this. Basically, like they would go through their tours, and because they were really successful, they were making a lot of money. They'd be in the black, and then as the tour was wrapping up, they would just spend so much money on drugs and partying that they would end up as a band in the red. And so, as a consequence of all this crazy partying, they literally had to declare bankruptcy as a band.
So was that the Medicine Show?
Yeah, and that's gone. They had to
Was
sell the
that
medicine show. They had to sell the medicine show and just be Dr. Hook after that.
was the Medicine Show just the shows of them buying all of the drugs to
N-
then spend all of their money?
It could have been. They were pretty wild live.
I don't
Hold on.
doubt it.
Did I write anything about this? I just want to make sure I'm not cutting in on one of my other notes. No. Okay. So like they were well known for, being totally crazy on stage. And
Sure.
one of the things that they would do very frequently apparently was they would get up for their set and just impersonate the act that had opened for them and pretend to be that band again. So
I do kind of love that.
it's kind of great, right? But they would just
I
do like all sorts of goofy shit like that for their live shows, which is also kind of a highlight, I guess.
Oh man.
Um,
Okay.
you gotta like that. All right. Now, as their actual highlight, here's the thing. I could talk about their most successful albums, their highest sales, their highest charting numbers. And in a way that I will get around to the song the cover of the Rolling Stone, but here's the thing. It's not the song that was the highlight of their career. It was the fact that in 1973, the band was put on the cover of the Rolling Stone. So they got what they always wanted. And I feel
Uh
like for a band most known for asking to be on the cover of that magazine, the fact that they got it, and now it was a caricature. It was a caricature instead of an actual photograph. And the headline read, "What's their names make the cover?" Um, so so it was definitely them, but the cover does not even allude to the fact that it is actually them. And
wow.
speaking of Rolling Stone, here's their unique thing. This is what I picked out as unique.
Okay.
Um, what had actually happened was they had a writer come out to interview the band for their Rolling Stone story with their cover.
Sure.
And would you like to get? They sent a child out to interview the band, which careful with sending children around this band. They sent a 16-year-old kid out to get the
Okay.
story from them to interview. Do you know who it was?
I don't.
Do you know any movies that have been made about, say, like being a rock journalist or like covering people as they were involved in music in this decade?
I've heard of a couple.
Like Almost Famous?
I've heard of Almost Famous.
Cameron Crowe, a 16-year-old Cameron Crowe,
Oh
was
my
the one
god.
who conducted their Rolling Stone interview.
Oh, that's terrifying then.
Yes.
That's super terrifying.
Oh, and fun fact, 6 degrees off of that, Cameron Crowe also directed the documentary called The Union, which was a documentary about the making of the album The Union, which was Elton John and Leon Russell together.
Okay. All
So,
right. I mean, that's a good little thing.
putting that all together. But that's not the only 6 degrees. I've got some Shel Silverstein ones as well because he wrote so many other
Yeah.
songs. He actually wrote several other pretty famous songs by other singers. One of them you might know is "A Boy Named Sue" by Johnny Cash.
I do know that, and I do know Shel Silverstein wrote that.
Right, but he also actually wrote the sequel, um, "The Father of a Boy Named Sue," which was played by Johnny Cash on his show, and Johnny Cash was in the band called the Highwaymen with Waylon Jennings, and
It's
who
true.
we covered. And Waylon Jennings also himself recorded a song called "The Taker," which was written by Shel Silverstein. Um, and
Wow.
then yeah, and one more little Shel Silverstein one is, and this was my stretch. This was my stretch connection. But from the years that he lived in California from 67 to 75, when he was writing for Dr. Hook, he was also known as a frequent guest at the Playboy Mansion. And at some time during those years, a young Debbie Harry was a Playboy bunny. So perhaps Shell and Debbie had, interacted in some way. Maybe they met each other before at the mansion.
Hey, it's a potential.
It could be. It could be. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. They were both there at the same time at some point, I'm sure. That
Fair
one I put
enough.
money on.
Oh, wow.
All right, I'm done.
I'm
Oh,
just.
no. Wait, hold on.
Oh, you
I
have
have one more
more.
fact. Um, so to go along with their cover of the Rolling Stone that came after the song, another group in 2003 covered that song live, and then a month later was put on the cover of the Rolling Stone.
Wow.
Do you want to guess who it was?
Was it us?
You're very close, but 11-year-old us were not a band yet. But it was Fish.
Hey. Okay.
So
Oh, I'm glad they chose that song to cover by
yeah, there's a
by
very
Dr.
clear
Hook.
choice that no one is going to make.
Oh man. You know what I would want someone to do, not us. I want to be clear,
Mm-mm.
not us. Go back through musical history and make a cover album of all of
Just the
those like
worst.
terrifyingly groom awful songs
So, like,
and just like
basically a Ted
call it
Nugent cover album
well
plus
like
the
yeah,
song.
I mean there's like Ted Nugent did it. There was the one song that we covered when we covered Joe Pesci, like when that song was super weird and strange. What there's this song, there's like a number of them
Yeah. Oh,
that are
there's a
like strange. You
lot.
can open with
Yeah.
"I Saw Her Standing There,"
Sure.
which is the least weird of all of the terror.
Yeah, and
Still
the
not great.
lyrics were changed last minute on that one too because Paul
Yeah,
just like he just couldn't come up with a good lyric and it was a placeholder.
yeah. Just oof. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
All right. Let's move on.
let's start wasting away with Jimmy Buffett. My favorite thing is I'm reading just Shel Silverstein's stuff on his wiki,
Oh yeah.
and like the last line of his first paragraph is like they talk about Boy Named Sue, father of a boy named Sue, blah blah blah, and then he says he also penned a lesser known song titled "Fuck 'Em." Just,
He penned it. No one ever recorded it or
it
anything. No
doesn't
one's ever heard it, but he wrote it.
it doesn't say anything about anyone singing it.
No. Didn't happen.
Just that he wrote a
He
song
wrote
called
it.
"Fuck 'Em." Should we find the lyrics to "Fuck 'Em" by Shel Silverstein and record that?
Hold on. We're civilized people. We can look this up. Okay, I've got them. Take number 1, fornicate them. I'm all strung out, my money spent. Can't really tell you where last year went, but I've given up paying my bills for Lent. My landlord says he wants his rent. Fuck him. Hey now, the women come, the women go. The hens start to cackle when the cock starts to crow. Hell, I take 'em in when the warm winds blow, but I boot 'em in the ass once it starts to snow. 'Cause fuck 'em.
Fuck 'em.
Yeah, I got a letter from my folks and say they're in debt. They say that things are as bad as they can possibly get. You know, I haven't answered that letter yet. I might use it to light my
Use it to
cigarette.
like
'Cause fuck 'em. What did they ever do for me anyway? They threw me out of the house when I was 29 years old and cut off my allowance. Fuck 'em. All right, last verse? No. All right,
Okay.
last verse for me. Hey, a woman come around and handed me a line about a lot of little orphan kids suffering and dying. Shit, I give her a quarter because one of them might be mine. The rest of the bastards can keep right on crying. I mean, fuck kids. Throw up on your shoulder,
Oh.
piss in your lap, never give you nothing. Fuck them.
Oh no. We're definitely covering this. Is there a melody
Holy
or are we making our
cow.
own melody?
I mean, I don't know. I only looked at the lyrics.
Oh my
Whew.
god.
That those are
Oh.
some words. I mean, you're singing it, right?
Yeah, I'll use my Dr.
Okay.
Hook voice.
Perfect.
Fuck them. Fuck those kids. Ah. It'll really hurt.
I'll be the one who comes in. I got a creepy old lady named a Cocaine Katie. Don't worry, I got you.
That was fun.
Okay, we're back on the rails.
We've never left the rails.
That's no, securely on the rails.
Yeah. Oh my Atlanta. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. I don't know if you could tell. Dr. Hook was the band that gave me the ick this week.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure I texted you saying, "Hey, Doctor Hook's last album's going to give you the ick,"
You did. You
just so
did
you're
straight.
prepared for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad that we reacted to it the same way by completely disregarding the rest of the
Oh,
album in our search to find out who wrote
immediately
those
had to make
words.
sure that Shelf Silverstein was not involved. It would have severely like reframed my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I'm ready.
I want those boots. 3, 2, 1.
James William Buffett, more popularly known as Jimmy Buffett, was an American singer songwriter. He was active from 1961 until he passed away in 2023. We covered 3 albums from Jimmy. We started with Down to Earth, which came out in 1970. We followed that up with Changes in Latitudes, Changes in Attitudes from 1977. And then we closed things out with Equal Strain on All Parts, which was released in 2023. And it was released after his passing, which we normally don't cover posthumous.
Right.
This album was entirely recorded leading up to his passing away, all in one go. So, Jimmy Buffett's my artist. I'll start with Down to Earth. And here's the thing. If you were to tell me, hey, Margaritaville was on Jimmy Buffett's like X numbered album and he's got a bunch before that, and this is the first one, I would say, yeah, it is. Absolutely, it is. It's like a folk country rock, super chill album. Like, if you like Jimmy Buffett, this is Jimmy Buffett. The first song was a little weirdly religious for
Yeah.
what I think of for Jimmy Buffett. I wasn't expecting it to be that religious.
Yeah, I felt like there were themes through, like, in a few songs.
Yeah, I would agree. It was fine. This is a style of music that when you're just sitting there listening to full albums doesn't play as well as like when you're like sipping a big old fishbowl glass while like watching a tropical sunset. This album would have slapped for that. Sitting in my, office working, it slapped a little less. But I thought it was like reasonably fun. He's like not a bad singer. He never tries to really sing. It's all just kind of there,
Mm-hmm.
but it's fine. This song Truck Stop Salvation I actually thought was pretty decent. It was the last song on the album. There was actually a couple moments where the theme of the song kind of went places. There was some interlude and there's some musical stuff happening. It was surprising. And also, shout out to Jimmy Buffett for playing the kazoo on this album.
You gotta love that.
You gotta love the kazoo. It is one of 3 instruments that I can play. The second one is vocals, and the third one is Mary Had a Little Lamb on the piano.
That's true. That's a full instrument in and of itself.
It's a full instrument.
Okay. I mean, you covered a lot of my notes, but here's what I didn't expect about it. One, the very folk countryness without that hint of island music was like different enough where I guess I was only just thinking of Margaritaville because it's the one I know by far the best. And I'm like, oh, this album's kind of different. This is folkier than I expected Jimmy
Yeah.
Buffett to be. And then I heard the rest of it and I'm like, oh, okay, it is there. There is like that
Yeah.
country folk sound behind that other like islandy stuff that he does. But I felt like it was kind of more genuine than I expected from Jimmy Buffett. I don't really expect like, themes that maybe aren't themes that I find super interesting or write about. Like you mentioned, kind of the religious stuff that was going on, but like genuine and real writing, instead of like kind of gimmicky stuff. Nothing wrong with
agree
it.
with you on that.
But
It was fine.
yeah.
One thing I wanted to point out that I thought was cool and I forgot to say, the album cover is like weirdly interesting. He's in this clearly abandoned car that's
Yeah.
like in the side of like some rocky hill.
Yeah, it's
And
kind of
I'm
strange.
I'm like,
How do you get there?
how do you like did they just find the car and went, "Hey Jimmy, hop in, we're gonna take a picture." Like, I feel like there's
Hmm.
some safety concerns to be brought up.
Well, not in 1970.
That's a great point.
Come on now.
It's an interesting cover. And also the lyrics to Captain America made me really think it's about a specific person, though I couldn't tell you who. It just
Mm,
felt very politically charged and like he was describing someone from the 1970s.
sure.
Just throwing that out there as well.
All right. Changes in latitudes, changes in attitudes. And here you can hear right in the title. This is like the musical incarnation of hanging out on the beach. It has
Yeah.
arrived. Um and like none of the songs I thought were bad. It's just like very easy listening, nothing acoustic tunes. Like you should be sipping daiquiris to it and sitting by the pool and talking with your friends. And like the music is sort of there as an ambiance. Um, but I mean, considering how boring a song like say Margaritaville is, not that it's a bad song, not that it's not very popular for a reason, but like it's very boring in terms of the chord progression and the structure. Like I just like playing it as a real drag. Um, so I was kind of surprised that there were a few non-boring songs in terms of like he threw in a handful of pretty interesting chord progressions from time to time. And the band behind it, the Coral Reefer band, they groove. They groove. They have a nice little pocket. So there you go.
Yeah, listen, I agree. I find it very interesting. So Jimmy Buffett himself coined the term for what he calls his music, which is what it's kind of regularly referred to now. There's, country western is what a lot of people think of. Like country music is country
Hmm.
western, and he calls his music golf and western.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
like a mix of like that islandy feel, a mix of
Yeah,
like that oceanic or like bay
that makes
breeze
sense.
feel mixed with some old school country. And I think that's a great way to look at it. And like it's fine. Again, this is an album that is best consumed maybe not in full album form and or like throwing it on a playlist when you're just at a party. This is like barbecue music or
Yeah, for
like
sure.
pool party
Which is
music or
exactly what it's made to be.
yeah. I do agree with you that the Coral Reefer band impressed me a little bit.
Hmm.
There was definitely some stuff happening behind the scenes in the music that was interesting. The lyrics were all fine. I've actually, after this, I read an article that had really complimented the writing of Jimmy Buffett and how Margaritaville is like a terrible example of his lyric and songwriting. And so I read the lyrics to, I forget the names of them now, but a couple of the songs that the article suggested. And I actually agree.
Okay.
So, like, Jimmy Buffett has some ability here with songwriting that this album doesn't necessarily showcase. And his first album showcased a little better, but not particularly.
Hmm.
But I wanted to throw it out there. I was suitably
Yeah,
impressed by
sure.
what I read about. In terms of the two big hits on this album, which are Changes in Latitude, Changes in Attitudes, and Margaritaville, they're both fine. They're similar songs. Margaritaville is one of those songs that, you know, people ask to hear. Although,
Yeah.
one thing that I do really appreciate, if people come up and ask us to play Jimmy Buffett, and we inevitably play Margaritaville, they always look disappointed. And I'm like, so you're an actual Jimmy Buffett fan.
You're a
You're a
parrot
real
head
parrot head
because
because you don't want to hear the biggest hit.
most people don't know much outside of
Yeah. Oh, there's
one or
no way.
two songs.
Listen, I
So
want to be clear. If you go up to a band in a bar and ask them to play a Jimmy Buffett
it's
song,
gonna be
they're going to
Margaritaville.
play Margaritaville. And if they start playing a deep cut of a Jimmy Buffett song, no one in the fucking bar is going to know what they're playing.
or really notice.
That's the dance that you have to play as a band in a public area. It's like you have to play songs that some other human being has heard in the bar that you're in, preferably. But anyway, this is overall a good album. I'll
Yeah, I
say
was gonna
I'll go
say,
up to good.
the Great Filling Station Holdup was actually number 58 on the US country charts. So I'm afraid you're gonna have to eat your words so we
You're
can
right.
play that one.
You're right. I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
Okay, so I'll take us into Equal Strain on All Parts. And I will start with the sort of melancholy part of this album. So this album was basically entirely conceptualized and recorded while Jimmy Buffett was uh, declining through battling skin cancer, which eventually ended up claiming his life shortly before the album was released. And so it definitely has none of that vibe at all. Like, this is not at all what I would have expected from that melancholy.
Right.
Like, this is a man recording what he thinks and what is actually going to be his last living album. Not at all. It is completely laid back and chill. There are, multiple like changes in things. He writes a song about his gummy just kicking in. Like, it's super chill all the way
Yeah.
through. He still is, contributing the writing on almost every single one of these songs right up until the end. Vocally, he still sounds fine. Like, he's a little older. His voice is a little bit deeper, but for the fact that we're going from 1977 to 2023, not that much has changed in his voice. Not that much has changed in the style. It's still that total, like, laid back Gulf and Western chill, with a little bit of extra flair. Like, he's got, like, Emmylou Harris is on one of these songs.
Yeah, and
The
she sounds really good.
She sounded great.
Yeah.
She sounded great on that. But the Preservation Hall Jazz Band is on the first one, the University of Bourbon Street, which I thought was an excellent addition to that song. All in all, like, this was a good Jimmy Buffett album.
Yes.
A very consistent product for Mr. Buffett, I will say.
Yeah. And we said Emmylou sounded great. I think Jimmy ages really well.
Agreed.
I mean, I think the fact that he does
losing a battle with cancer during the recording of this.
Totally. I think it has something to do with the style of music. I mean, it's just such a laid back stuff to sing that I feel like it, he's not really straining himself at all. And that works out really well. I think there were, yes, there's a lot of still silliness on this record, but if you listen to the title track, I think you do get a little bit of that more serious reflection, at least in there. But Pat, what are we doing not talking about the elephant in the room?
Oh, fish porn?
Fish porn.
Oh, okay.
He has a song called Fish Porn, and he just like shouts it out multiple times. And as soon as it happened, I'm sitting there working, and the song is on, and I'm like, well, he didn't just say fish porn. Let me check my iPad. Oh, he did. He said that. That can't be right.
What I did, and it's literally like the opening lyrics of the song are like,
fish porn, fish porn,
fish porn. It's the first thing on your mind. Like, it's the first thing on his mind is what, like, the lyric. And I'm just like, excuse me? What's happening here, Mr.
I'm
Buffett?
not even gonna ask because I don't want to know.
I'm assuming considering that you gave a posit for the different style of terrible song from Dr. Hook, my posit here, my opinion, is it's like a lyrical equation to food porn, which is, for anybody who doesn't know, where have you been for the last 50 years? Food porn is like somebody taking like wonderful pictures of food to, like, to tantalize.
Yeah.
And for somebody who's, really into fishing, I'm assuming like fish porn is like you're out on the boat in the ocean, like throwing the line. Like, I'm assuming.
I think you're right. I think you're
but
right,
it was
but it's
not worded
jarring to
very
hear.
clearly. It was, yeah, I completely agree, especially since the song before that was like a super laid back song about how like nobody works on Friday anymore. Like
Right.
they just put in the work on Thursday and then chill. And that's the whole song. And
Fish
then it
porn,
ends
fish porn.
fish board. Yeah,
All right,
it was
thanks.
jarring.
Okay. I had one other thing that was shocking to me about this album, but you might
Sure.
wanna be talking about it
It is
in
what
one
I,
of your
yes. Yeah,
segments.
you do not want to say it.
So I won't say
I
it. I'll
yeah.
just let you get into it then.
Cool. So yeah, so here's my my little blurbs about Jimmy Buffett. Here's the thing. Unique. What do you say? Jimmy Buffett is kind of an icon. He is kind of unique in and of himself.
I agree.
One of the things that I did not know about Jimmy Buffett is that he wrote 3 New York Times bestsellers, which was surprising to me.
Yeah.
I knew one
I'd
of them would be
imagine
his biography, and it was.
okay. I'd
But
imagine he could write pretty much anything, and there's a group of people, a built-in
two of
audience for
them
that.
were fiction. One of them was a collection of fictional short stories called Tales
Nice.
from Margaritaville. But one of them was Where is Joe Merchant, which was a full-fledged fictional novel
Good
that
for
was a
him.
New York Times bestseller.
That's pretty cool.
And I thought that was pretty unique that he was, because a lot of big-time artists that we've covered, their biography or autobiography has become a New York Times bestseller. So that's not
Sure,
unique.
yeah.
But to have 2 other fictional novel, like a novel and short story
Yeah.
collection, that's pretty unique.
I agree.
Highlights. The first one I'll say is he is a 2024 inductee into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame under the category of musical excellence. So
Okay.
kudos to him. That is a very rare thing. And with that, we'll get into the real highlight. And it's the fact that he has what is widely considered the most lucrative song of all time with Margaritaville.
Yeah.
So Margaritaville, while not achieving the monetary success through just the song,
Sure.
sparked Margaritaville Enterprises, Jimmy Buffett's brand, his entire, being in business,
Yep.
which I'm going to give you 2 little blurbs about. This one was from 2008, which says Margaritaville Enterprises, founded in 2006 and based in Orlando, sells everything from beachwear to furniture and also oversees at least 1 Caribbean island resort, 2 American resorts, and 4 casinos. You can buy Margaritaville rum and combine it with a Margaritaville drink mixer and your very own Margaritaville blender. According to the Orlando Business Journal, the company brought in at least $100 million in revenue in 2007.
Okay.
That was from 2008.
Yeah. It
In
was.
2024, I went on the Margaritaville Resorts website. And the first thing it says is, escape to a paradise where time goes slower, food and drinks taste better, laughs are louder, and smiles are wider. Margaritaville offers 41 resorts and hotels in 36 cities and 8 countries.
Well, yeah.
So there's
Shit.
been exponential growth. There is still also, I believe it's up to 5 casinos at this point because they opened one in
That's
Atlantic City
wild.
now. And it's worth well over $1 billion.
Yeah. That's pretty insane.
If that's not the highlight, I wrote a song in 1977 and now I'm worth $1 billion.
Yeah.
That's,
Pretty good.
I mean, okay.
Pretty good.
I get it. I'm wearing a hat, but I can't tip it back here. So a tip of the cap to you, Mr. Buffett. I want to be clear, Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
Although ironically, he did have a friendship with Warren Buffett,
Yeah.
and they used to call each other Cousin Jimmy and Uncle Warren, I might have reversed that, Cousin Warren and Uncle Jimmy, even
Okay.
though they're not related at all.
I love it.
Just, low light. Well, here's the thing. Obviously, the one big low light is that he's dead. He passed away in 2003. He was hospitalized to address some issues that needed immediate attention. That is what was the statement that went out in May of 2023. And he rescheduled a bunch of tour dates, and then he went into hospice, and that was kind of it. He died of Merkel cell carcinoma, a very rare and aggressive skin cancer, after a 4-year battle with it. So unfortunate,
Sure.
but that is a low light. The other low light, which is a slightly different level of low light,
Okay.
in 2006, Buffett was detained by French customs in Saint Tropez for allegedly carrying over 100 pills of ecstasy.
You gotta love this guy.
His luggage was searched after his private jet landed at the Toulon-Hier International Airport. He paid a fine of $300 and was released. In
Okay.
his statement after the fact, he released a statement that said the ecstasy was in fact a B vitamin supplement known as Fultix.
Okay.
So I don't know. I know that happened. I know he was detained for it.
Okay.
And that's the thing.
I got nothing else.
Nicest and meanest. I'm going to say the meanest first because the nicest is longer. In 2001, he was ejected from, at the time called American Airlines Arena, which is now Caissa Center. It's the Miami Heat's basketball court.
Right.
And he was ejected for vehemently cursing during the game in a courtside seat.
Oh, Jimmy, come on.
And the referee ejected him, had no idea who he was. And
Nice.
then the referee got like mad and was like yelling at the time Heat head coach Pat Riley because Pat Riley thought he thought Pat Riley was insulting him by asking him if he'd ever been a parrot head, while explaining to him that was Jimmy Buffett you just kicked out
God.
a Miami Heat basketball game.
Yikes.
So like meanest, sure, whatever. I mean, he was screaming profanity at a basketball game, but
It's not ideal.
Not ideal, but sports bring out those emotions. As long as I couldn't see anything that said he was screaming like right at someone or like,
Sure.
it seemed like he might have just been like pissed at something and the ref was just like, get out of here.
Yeah.
You knucklehead.
All right.
Okay. Nicest thing. Jimmy Buffett, a ton of charitable efforts, really big in emotional conservation. In 1981, the Save the Manatee Club, manatee being one of Jimmy Buffett's favorite animals.
Of course. What else would it be?
Buffett began to work to introduce the Save the Manatee license plate in 1986. So he founded the club in 1981 and then began to work on the license plate in 1986, which featured an image of the West Indian manatee, with proceeds going to the Save the Manatee Club.
Very cool.
He also, in 1987, lobbied for the reauthorization of the Endangered Species Act of 1973.
Very good.
So those are big on that. Some charity performances. He performed for the troops multiple times in Guantanamo Bay and Port-au-Prince. He performed several hurricane relief concerts in November of 2004, not of 2024. Didn't happen yet, and he's dead.
No.
But
harsh.
In 2004, a lot of stuff.
He didn't do it. He'll never do it.
A lot of relief support because of the multiple hurricanes that happened in that year. In 2008, he performed a concert in Hong Kong that raised funds for the Foreign Correspondents Club Charity Fund. He also did multiple concerts in the Gulf Shores and the Gulf Coast to draw tourism to the area in the aftermath of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. So a lot of stuff like that. Also really big in disaster relief. Buffett brought tents via his own seaplane to donate after the 2010 Haiti earthquake. And in the aftermath of Hurricane Irma, Buffett sent private planes to help ferry supplies and give a benefit concert in Gustavia.
Okay.
So a lot of good stuff from that.
Yeah.
And then just a couple quick 6 degrees here. The first one, the other members of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee class of 2024 include a couple people that we've covered and a couple we haven't. The people we have are Ozzy Osbourne and Peter Frampton.
Okay, very good.
So
we've covered both
kudos to them. But the other one is the one you were going to mention. So in the song My Gummy Just Kicked In, the person playing bass on that is Paul McCartney.
Okay. I got to ask now.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Do I know why?
Paul McCartney played bass on that song?
I don't know why specifically he picked that song, unless I mean,
Okay.
I'm
S-
assuming it's because Paul
There's a,
McCartney does gummies.
no,
But
well, probably, but there's a real reason. And
okay.
this is because Jimmy Buffett and Paul McCartney and their wives were attending some sort of event together.
Oh,
And while they were there, Paul's wife, Nancy Chevelle, was like looking a little off, I guess. And Jimmy got concerned. He was like, "Hey, Nancy, are you okay? What's going on?" And she said, "My gummy just kicked in."
that's amazing.
And so that's where it comes from,
That's amazing. But
right?
yeah, Paul McCartney, who we covered 3 times on this podcast as a member of the
Yes,
Beatles, as a member of Wings, and as his solo career.
that's right.
So, and I'm sure we'll find a fourth way
We
to cover
will.
him at some point.
I'm sure that we will.
And
As the
that
person in
is,
charge of that, I'm sure that we will.
yeah, of course. But yeah, that's what I've got for Jimmy Buffett.
Excellent. Let's grade him. Um, so here's the thing. This first score has got to be like better than I thought it would be, based on all of those, like a ton of top 40 hits. And I think they had one gold record in the US, but they had multiple $1 million singles, including Sylvia's Mother and Cover of the Rolling Stone. And if you combine all the gold and platinum records they had worldwide, they had 60 that certified in different countries. So like they were actually really popular in a lot of places, and more pop, even though only one of those songs has really kind of stood the test of time.
Yeah.
They were like way more popular throughout the 70s than I realized.
Okay, so more than a one hit wonder, more than a flash in the pan.
Definitely.
What number are you thinking?
I think it's at least solidly in the twos. You put up consistent gold and platinum records at different countries around the world throughout a decade. You have like 5 or 6 top 40 hits. You got to at least be in the twos. I mean, I feel like you got to be flooring there.
Okay, so what do you think for like a 2.3?
I would give him a 2.4.
Give him a 2.4. I approve.
Jimmy Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett. Here's the thing Jimmy Buffett is a household name.
I was going to say, a lot of this is not even the music.
You're right, but it's all part of the brand of Jimmy
Yeah.
Buffett. I mean, like I just mentioned, 41 worldwide resorts in 8 countries and 36 cities, $1 billion business, merchandise, restaurants, a retirement home.
Yeah.
There
Which really
is,
makes the most sense.
yeah, of course it does. There is a huge brand around Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
And by
It's
I
crazy.
mean multiple restaurants because he's got
Yep.
Margaritaville and Cheeseburgers in Paradise.
You're right.
So there's a lot. And then there's the
There's a
music.
lot.
Margaritaville is a huge hit. There's a lot of parrot heads around the world. He toured.
Yeah, it's a subculture.
Yeah, he toured all of the time. He's done over 40 international worldwide tours. Uh, this is a number that has got to be up there.
It's pretty good.
There's numbers that we reserve for people who irrevocably changed the face of music, which I
Yeah,
don't
right.
think Jimmy
No.
Buffett did.
No.
But so
But
yeah, while we're keeping him out
I
of the
mean, but
9
he
to
like
10
has
range,
his own like sliver of capitalism, you know?
this is a number that I could see being like above an 8.
I could be in like the very low eights.
That's fair. I'm not again. We take 9 and 10 out of it because he did not irrevocably change the face of music.
Right.
However, pretty much everything else, he has the floor of being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's
Absolutely.
a 2024 inductee.
Can't take it away.
He has, numerous sales and then just a full-on billion-dollar business.
Yeah, it's something.
I think an 8.2.
Okay. Breadth of work. Oh, I don't know how many albums Dr. Hook has. Should I look that up?
Yeah, you should probably look that up. While you're
All
looking
right.
that up, I'll talk about Jimmy. So Jimmy Buffett has 32 studio albums.
Okay.
So that is a huge number. 32 studio albums. He more than meets our threshold for not going down. He's sold over 20 million records
Okay.
in and of its own right. So that's the floor we're working with here.
Yeah, so he goes up. So he starts at a 6.7, and he's probably going to go up to, I'd say, a 7 is fair.
I think that's also fair.
Dr. Hook had 11 records and starts at a 5.8. Um, and I at least know, have several different gold singles, which are million selling singles, gold albums. I couldn't really find much on like worldwide total sales,
Yeah.
but it's got to be at least a handful of millions. It's definitely more than um, they need to not lose points, I think.
Yeah, I mean, looking at their studio albums, I mean, a lot the issue that I'm having is a lot of their certifications are British and Australian, which are
Sure.
not high
No,
certifications.
right, but I'm saying, but
They
I
had
know that
one
they have
gold.
multiple aside from the gold album, they have multiple singles that sold 1 million copies in the United States. So
Yeah, which is fine.
they're definitely not going down.
We're not taking points away for sure. I agree with you on that.
All right. But here's the thing, I am now taking points away.
Of course you are.
I'm taking point one away because I wouldn't have done anything for the first two albums. But you got to lose a little bit for the last one.
And I'm taking away point two because I was a little less forgiving of the weird chant that one guy was singing on half of the songs. And then that third album was bad.
Yeah.
So I'm taking away point two. For Jimmy Buffett, I'll be honest. I was expecting to maybe take away points from Jimmy Buffett coming into it. I'm not. I'm gonna leave him where he is.
I am as well.
Yeah, I was more pleasantly surprised than I thought. I'm not a parrot
Yeah,
head,
no.
I'll be clear.
No.
But I certainly have a more leveled respect for Jimmy Buffett than I
No, I
did
agree with you.
coming into this episode.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm not super huge on instrumental talent for either one of these groups, though. I mean, I think we're definitely below average for Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show. A lot of it's just because it was sloppy and silly and
Yeah.
intended to be more of a joke than played super well. But it's not like they were falling apart or like couldn't get through the songs. I don't know. High threes, low fours.
I'm fine with high threes. Maybe
Done.
like a 3.8 or 3.9 would be
3.8
fine.
is
Love it.
It's plenty of points for them.
I agree.
Jimmy Buffett, I like the band. I think the Carl Reefer band grooves.
Yeah, and
But
here's the thing.
he in and of himself is nothing really to write home about.
Nothing to write home about. Nothing that takes away though.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear. Like I'm not trying to argue a high score here or even like a decent score.
Yeah.
But nothing that Jimmy Buffett did in the songs took away from the songs. And I, in fact, think that his style, like he hits that niche of I found a perfect style for what I can do.
Yeah.
Which is, kind of a whole point of it. I would be more disappointed if somebody like Steve Perry from Journey was singing these songs. It's like, brother, you can do so much more than this.
Sure.
Like vocally, what are we doing? But like with Jimmy Buffett, he tapped himself out and was just like, this is what I got.
That's fair. What do you want to give him?
I mean, probably just Jimmy Buffett I would be putting in the fours. He's still below average. With the Coral Reefer band, maybe
he might just be a 5.
Might just be a 5.
Yeah, I think so. So here's the thing.
Shel Silverson is not a member of the band.
So it's right. It's going to hurt them pretty hard for Poetic.
But then it gets even worse when they wrote their own.
Yeah, I know. I know where it all goes.
I know.
Songwriting is not necessarily a part of that, though. But I also didn't feel like that was particularly strong. Like, it wasn't bad.
Not.
There were moments of brilliance, like Cover of the Rolling Stone. But it was, I don't know. I'm like maybe going to give him like a 4 maximum.
A 4? I don't think I'm at a 4.
We can go lower. That's fine.
I think I'm
to be
lower
nice.
than I am for their instrumental talent. I'm like at 3.5.
All right. I'm not in the mood to argue.
Sure,
3.5 seems sloppy, like plenty.
Man. That was the problem for me. Like, it didn't feel like controlled chaos with clever songwriting. It felt like sloppiness, and then we just recorded it and went, and that was it. So it didn't feel like a lot of effort was put into it.
Sure. All right, Jimmy Buffett. I gotta give the man his due for inventing an entire genre of music.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Like the Gulf and Western style, that like island mix. Like he is
Yeah,
synonymous with that.
it's like the individual songs are pretty forgettable for the most part.
Yeah,
But like he
there's
did do his own thing, so I don't want to hurt him too much for that.
no, and while some of the songs do bleed together in terms of the genre, there is distinctly here like the first iteration of Jimmy Buffett on the first album is different than later on. There, it's more folk and country,
Yeah,
and
you're
then it
right. You're
moves
right.
on. So there's some differences here. Again, this is not going to be like a crazy score for me, but I could see this number being like comfortably in the higher end of the fives if you include the adding a new genre into the world.
That helps. I am willing to go to a 5.7.
And I love it.
And then poetic talent. Look, Doctor, I'm going to give him like a point something. They
Here's the
didn't
thing.
write the first albums, and
A
then when they did, it was a disaster.
a
It
point
was a
one is
predatory
what
disaster.
we a point one is what we give to people who don't write their own stuff. And for Dr. Hook's sake, I wish we could give them that. But I'm saying we give them a point two.
Okay.
You can argue a point three if you want, but I will not go higher.
Hold on. I have something very important that I need to see.
Okay.
Okay, we're good. Point two is fine. There's a certain person who needs to lose this season for poetic talent. And so I just had to check something real quick.
That's understandable.
It was the correct thing to do. Point two is fine. Jimmy
Well,
Buffett, you
yeah.
argued that his lyrics were a little bit above average before, and I'm taking
Yeah.
you at your word.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I think at their most basic, his lyrics would be what I would consider average. They're
Sure.
non-offensive. Their rhyme schemes are normal. They're super average, right at a 5.
Yeah.
Some of the other lyrics from the article that I read would put me a little bit higher, and I'm talking like maybe our total score here is like a 5.3.
I can
It's
do
just a
that
little
for
bit
you.
above average, but generally it's right around the what we'd expect to be average songwriting and
That's
lyrics.
fair. Okay. Last but not least, X Factor. I'm going to give a 0 to Dr. Hook.
Sure.
But
I
I
mean,
am
there
going to
are
give
some
points to Jimmy
things.
Buffett.
Yeah, there are some things to talk about for Jimmy Buffett. Jimmy Buffett is one of 2 billionaires we've covered on this podcast.
3.
He's the first. Is there a third one?
Paul McCartney.
Oh, is he a
Just
billionaire
very
now? I didn't even.
recently, yeah.
Okay, I didn't even think
Like
that he was
maybe
a
this
billionaire.
week.
Okay, so one of 3 billionaires we've covered on this podcast.
One of 2 we've covered today
One of
in
that's
the
true. We
Jimmy
did talk
Buffett
about.
section.
Yeah, that is true. He's the first
Actually,
one we
one of 3
covered.
we've talked about today because you made the joke at the beginning of
I
the episode
did
about feelings
Taylor
26.
Swift.
Wow. I'm
It
so
all
sorry.
comes
I had
full
to interrupt
circle.
you because it was right.
It's fine. It makes sense. Yeah, but Jimmy Buffett is the first one we covered as a billionaire. So that's something cool.
True.
With Taylor Swift, she was not yet a billionaire when we covered her a few seasons ago. Paul McCartney, if it's as recent as you're saying, we obviously didn't cover him as a billionaire. I don't count us really covering him today. He played bass on one song.
Yeah.
But that is
Very
something.
relatable song.
The sheer brand recognition is something, and then adding in the genre
Definitely genre.
is something.
Definitely,
I mean,
he's a very unique type of entrepreneur.
yeah.
I'd be willing to give like 3.5 X Factor points.
I think that's fair. I really do. This is like a rare air. Like we're not going to cover too many people who have managed to make this much of an impact in all of the encapsulation of the brand.
Yeah.
By putting out, frankly, mid music.
Sure.
I mean, parrot heads, don't attack me. I have nothing but respect for Jimmy Buffett. The music in and of itself is kind of lackluster.
Right.
But hey, shout out to Jimmy Buffett, who we were both talking about. Found out he was a token. He was a toker.
That's
Did
right.
not know. I don't know why I didn't know that. It makes so much sense.
It does.
We were talking about like the Coral Reefer Band, all of it. It makes so much sense. But it took me reading the lyrics to a song called "My Gummy Just Kicked In" for me to go, I guess Jimmy Buffett smoked pot.
Yeah,
Although
he sure did.
not for the last number of years of his life, to be clear.
Okay. That last particular number.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
There was a
Yeah.
time when he quit smoking. I don't remember what year it was,
Right.
and I'm not going to give improper information, but I
That's
know there
fair.
was a time when he stopped smoking marijuana.
Excellent. Okay. We'll come back next time. No, I'm just kidding. I'll tell you who won.
It's like, I would like to know who won.
All right. Well, I think we all know who won. So winning
I would
this week
agree.
is, in fact, James Buffet with a score of 34.7.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big time win. Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show, 15.4. They also ran. Still have my favorite
Oof.
song of the week, though. And my least favorite song. Quite a range. Very rangy.
Oh,
Well, next week, we're going to be examining, um, bands that would have been considered hard rock at two very different times in musical history and see how they compare.
I love it. I love it. Well, what an episode! Many surprises. I fully got the ick from one of the bands.
Fully got the ick.
It was a whole thing. Thanks for listening and tuning in. If you were one of the people, tuning into our live show, you should keep doing that. We try to be every Thursday, although we recorded this on a Friday.
That's true.
Because we are chaotic, and that's it. But we try to make it Thursdays at 5:30 Eastern. So if you're available for that, hang out with us. But if you're not available for that, keep listening to the recordings and have a great day.
Fuck Jerry Lee Lewis.
Always. Whew. All right. I have no idea.
You want to answer this question in the chat if this person's still here now?
Yeah. So I have no idea who this person is. I don't, I guess. But hey, hello, 2KHR. We we don't typically do music reactions.
But we'll do it right now.
Yeah. If you got a song, why not? Why not? But it could be fun. And then also, hello, Keith. Louis the 16th is not next. We don't cover him for another season or two.
At least.
Then we get into the real deep dive of Louis the 16th music. It'll knock your head right off. Oh, man. What a day.
What a day it has been.
I'm
feeling pretty good, thanks. I'll tell you what happened.
Yeah.
My gummy just kicked in about 40 minutes ago.
Oh, I could see when it happened. Like, here's the thing you need to know. This is you normally. Like, you're just chilling. Like, I can't even get my eyes enough. Sure. You got normal eyes. And then it hits and you're just like...
Yeah.
You're just hanging out, man. You're just hanging out. Dude, I was... This is bad. I was hanging out with Sydney. This was like a couple weeks ago. And then she went to bed and I was like still out on the couch. And I'm just doom scrolling. And I had the pen. And I'm just like, penning, and I've completely lost track of everything. And I like get up and I'm like, oh, I'm like feeling it. I'm zooted. And I go into the room. And so in our bedroom, on the one wall, there's a bureau with like a full length mirror that is the length of the bureau. And I like catch myself in that mirror and I'm like, I don't have eyes. I don't know how I'm seeing because I don't like, I couldn't even, it was like, I couldn't even understand, but I also like couldn't stop blinking because
my eyes get so dry.
Everything was just so dry.
But
I didn't have eyes. And I like said to Sydney, I'm like, I don't have eyes. I can't see.
Imagine somebody just climbs into your bed. I don't have eyes. I can't see.
It was so bad, dude. What had happened was what I didn't realize, because Sydney was fully asleep. I woke her up with this. I had been doom scrolling and hitting every like 5 minutes for like 90 minutes. And it was a lot.
That's a lot.
Because I just lost because normally I don't have it like with me.
Hmm.
I'll like hit, I'll just like hit it at like, or like if I'm playing video games, I'll just like hit it every half hour or so.
Yeah.
I was just like scrolling and I was just like, oh no. It was one of the few times that
A
I woke
mistake
up the
has been
next
made.
day and was like, I am like a hungover-ish.
Oh yeah.
It was bad because normally I'm not. Normally I'm fine.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, you gotta have your water.
You gotta hydrate.
Gotta hydrate.
Got to hydrate. Exactly, my future wife. I just woke her up telling her I didn't have eyes. Which,
It's like the first time that Jackie and I went on vacation. You've heard that story, I assume.
yeah.
We went up the mountains for New Year's with a bunch of my bozo friends,
Mm-hmm.
and she sat up in bed in the middle of the first night of us sleeping together. This was 2 weeks after we started dating, and just her eyes wide open. Who are you? Staring out into the dark, and I am freaking the fuck out.
Uh,
But it all worked out. There was no
and
one there, probably.
and that was probably, and that was the moment when you decided to marry her.
Yeah, that's how I knew. That's how I knew.
Anybody who could inject that much immediate fear into you, you have to keep them close.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's what
that's
it is.
people saying strange shit in the middle of the night.
That's how we fell in love.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh, no, you used to just ply me with endless amounts of alcohol. That's how we fell in love.
That's true.
You were like, I went to bartending school. Here's
I said,
just
Patrick, when you're 18, you'll be able to
No.
come over here and drink all
Stop.
the time. Mom and Dad won't say no.
Stop. You will not lure me in with your Dr. Hook and the Medicine Show shambles. I do want to get somebody to record that album though.
Oh God.
Just the album. We'll just call it like the Sex Offenders Registry.
Oh,
And it's just gonna be covers of the worst, like Ted Nugent and Dr. Hook, like all of the songs that are
what was
so creepily.
the YMCA? But the Village People had that
The
creepy
Village
album.
People had that one, yeah. Lot of artists putting out some weird stuff.
Keith's in. He's buying this album.
Exactly. It's one of those, like, it would have to be super clear that it is like a condemnation of the songs.
Right.
Like everything about it would have to be very obviously like
The album
we
would
are
be called
condemning.
"These Are Songs No One Should Have Ever Written"
Yes, that's fine.
by satirical artist.
Speaking of buying an album, yes, you could in fact purchase
That's true.
Life on the Outside by Low Totem, which
I've
I would
heard
like to
good
think is a
things.
better album than any of the Dr. Hook albums we listened to today.
I also agree
I would
with
like
that.
to think that.
I mean, I believe it even. Not to toot my own horn.
Just 1 out of 2. Yeah, we are running our own sound tomorrow.
No shit.
Yep, just got the okay. Well, the word, it's not okay, but I got the word.
It's not okay.
All right. Doing our own. Oh well. It'll be what it'll be. I mean,
yeah.
It's not the worst load in. And we'll just set it up and go. I'm hoping his stuff's not in the way.
Yeah.
That's my only concern is like, I'm hoping he doesn't have his stuff out.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he won't, like the sub and stuff. Like I'm assuming it's not just always under that 10.
True. Yeah.
So, whatever. We'll
figure it out.
It'll be what it'll be. I'm excited to see the new whip, though.
Yeah, yeah, it's something. I'll tell you this, it's white.
Okay. That's one of the most common car colors, so you'll blend
Yeah,
in.
it's up there with black,
It's
gray.
up there with black and gray. Which technically is it white or is it just gray?
Well, it's hard to tell.
Well, you could see white because
I
white
can see
is
white. I can see white. It's white.
yeah. All right. Well, listen, go. You've had a busy day.
I have had a busy day.
You've
I
had a
need to
busy
go
day.
practice driving my new car, so
You
see you
should
guys
not
later.
do that right now. I would recommend against.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going outside again.
Yeah, who would do that?
Oh shit! I have to go
Outside's for
outside
squares.
again. To put the cover on the pool.
Nick, you gotta put the cover on the pool.
Fuck. Okay, I gotta go do that right now.
All right, yeah, go do
Okay,
that.
bye.
I'll talk to you later, buddy. All right. Well, I'm not staying on any longer than that. I'm gonna be kicking out of here, going and spend my Friday night not doing this anymore. But thanks for hanging out. It's been a blast. If you enjoyed listening to us be surprised about Jimmy Buffett, that was that. I never thought I would recommend Jimmy Buffett to anyone. I never thought I would care about Jimmy Buffett, and I learned some stuff, found a newfound respect for him. So, which is kind of the whole point of the podcast. That's why we do what we do, because you learned new things about people you never would have expected to. But with all that being said, I am absolutely out of here. You all have a wonderful evening, and I'll catch you next time.